In a year where global power shifts dominate headlines, Beijing is preparing a spectacle that has caught the world's attention, a massive military parade set for Wednesday. Officially, it commemorates the 85th anniversary of Japan's defeat in World War II. But beyond the patriotic symbolism, analysts say the event has a very different audience in mind: Taiwan, the United States, and the broader international community. The parade will feature thousands of Chinese troops marching through Tiananmen Square under the gaze of President Xi Jinping and visiting dignitaries from North Korea, Russia, and Iran. The event is choreographed to impress, but according to military experts, it is also designed to unsettle China's rivals. Tony He, a former Pentagon official, now working as a defense analyst, believes the parade is part of a broader strategy. Tony He said, the Chinese parade, is a psychological warfare tool. It's an opportunity for China to showcase many of their new things. They're new, but based on our operational research, it's not necessarily proven. They will demonstrate many big things, many unmanned systems and stuff. But once again, they're not really proven. China's military parades have always been political theatre as much as military demonstration. The carefully rehearsed columns of tanks, missile systems, and unmanned drones are intended not only to showcase strength, but also to project confidence and inevitability. For Beijing, the message is clear: China is rising, and no adversary should underestimate its reach. Yet, as Hu points out, dazzling hardware on display is not the same as battlefield effectiveness. Tony Hu emphasised, the real capability is a combination of not only just the hardware, but you also have to combine it with software, like the operator's ability, the strategy, the tactics that you use. And I think in that area, China is still a little bit lacking. That gap between performance and practice is where China's adversaries, especially Taiwan and the United States, still see opportunities. For all of China's investment in hypersonic missiles, cyber warfare, and artificial intelligence-driven systems, experts argue that military modernization requires not only money, but also experience, training, and doctrine, areas in which the United States and its allies retain an edge. The real target of Beijing's message, however, may not be the international press corps or the parade attendees, but Taiwan's leadership and citizens. As tensions escalate across the Taiwan Strait, Beijing has increasingly relied on both military maneuvers and information warfare to unsettle the island's population. Tony Hu stated, I suspect the primary audience is Taiwan. They really hope Taiwan gets intimidated and surrenders without a fight. And they also want to intimidate United States from coming to help Taiwan. And certainly they want to incite the kind of national pride within their own country by saying, we have all these big new stuff and boy, we can march so well. This blunt assessment reflects what many in Taipei already fear, that Beijing's strategy is to break Taiwan's resolve before a conflict even begins. By parading strength, China signals its willingness to enforce unification on its terms, while simultaneously trying to erode Taiwanese morale. The second major audience is the United States. Washington has repeatedly affirmed its support for Taiwan's defense, most recently through high-level visits and expanded military assistance. US naval patrols through the Taiwan Strait have also underscored America's commitment to keeping the waterway open. For Beijing, however, such gestures are provocations. The parade, especially with its emphasis on missiles that could potentially target US carriers or bases in the Pacific, is a pointed reminder that any American intervention would come at high cost. By showcasing systems like hypersonic glide vehicles and long-range missile batteries, China is signaling that it is preparing for a scenario in which Washington comes to Taiwan's aid. At the same time, Hu's remarks suggest that Beijing knows its display is as much about psychological signaling as real combat readiness. The hope is that US policymakers, faced with images of new missile systems and drone swarms, may hesitate when confronted with the prospect of defending Taiwan militarily. Beyond foreign audiences, the parade also serves an important domestic function. For Xi Jinping, projecting strength at home is as vital as intimidating rivals abroad. Nationalism remains a powerful tool for consolidating public support, particularly at a time when China faces economic headwinds and growing international pushback. Images of well-drilled troops, cutting-edge weaponry, and leaders applauding from the reviewing stand reinforce the narrative of a confident, unified China. It is not just a show of arms, it is a show of political stability and control. This week's parade also highlights the shifting global alliances. The presence of leaders from Russia, Iran and North Korea underscores the formation of a bloc of states positioning themselves against the US-led order. In many ways, the event is as much about who is standing alongside Xi as it is about the weapons on display. For Moscow, Tehran and Pyongyang, participation offers both symbolic and practical benefits, a chance to demonstrate solidarity with Beijing while gaining access to China's diplomatic and economic networks. For China, their presence validates its claim to be leading an alternative global order, one that rejects what it sees as Western dominance. Still, analysts warn that viewers must distinguish between symbolism and reality. Military parades are highly choreographed events where every movement is rehearsed, every vehicle freshly painted, and every missile carefully displayed. They are not battlefield trials. Hu's caution about the unproven nature of much of China's weaponry reflects a broader skepticism within defence circles. The real test of capability lies not in marching columns, but in joint operations, battlefield resilience and sustained logistics, areas where China's armed forces still lack real-world experience. For Taiwan, the parade is a reminder of the urgency of strengthening its own defences. Taipei has been accelerating procurement of asymmetric capabilities, such as mobile missile launchers, anti-ship weapons and cyber defence tools, designed to offset China's numerical superiority. Yet intimidation is part of the challenge. By attempting to sow doubt within Taiwanese society, Beijing seeks to weaken the island's resolve from within. For Taiwanese leaders, reassuring the public while preparing for the worst is a delicate balancing act. China's upcoming military parade is more than a commemoration of past victories. It is a calculated act of psychological warfare aimed at Taiwan, the United States, and China's own population. As Tony Hu repeatedly underscored, the weapons on display may not all be proven, but their purpose is not only to fight wars, it is to influence perceptions. Whether that intimidation succeeds depends less on the marchers in Beijing and more on the decisions made in Taipei and Washington.
It's a psychological warfare tool. It's an opportunity for China to showcase many of their new things. They're new, but based on our operational research, it's not necessarily proven. They will demonstrate many big things, many unmanned systems and stuff. But once again, they're not really proven. The real capability is a combination of not only just the hardware, but you also have to combine it with software, like the operator's ability, the strategy, the tactics that you use. And I think in that area, China is still a little bit lacking. I suspect the primary audience is Taiwan. They really hope Taiwan gets intimidated and surrender without a fight. And they also want to intimidate the United States from coming to help Taiwan. And certainly they want to incite the kind of national pride within their own country by saying, we have all this big new stuff, and boy, we can march so well.